Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, and today I'm joined by
Nathan Nerdarch.
And today we have another Unearthed Arcana. This time we're talking about revised classes.
Excellent.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So today we have the Unearthed Arcana.
The revised subclasses, and we've got our printout, we've got our notes here. Because it's revised, we kind of have to look back to what was there before, and Dave wrote some notes and hightailed it out of here. He's like, you guys handle that one. So it's like, all right, let's dive into this and see what's going on. We got 6 and a smidge pages worth of changes, new material, however you want to look at it, to the stuff that's out there. So let's dive in. Druid, Circle of the Shepherd, Speech of the Woods, they added Sylvan into the whole mix, so that's like, well, you don't just communicate with these things, you actually get a whole language out of it, which I thought
is nice, yeah.
Was pretty nice. As a whole, I'm actually pretty happy with Circle of the Shepherd, although there's one power that I still think is not very useful.
And we can get to that later.
We'll get to that one.
But the next big deal is starting at second level, they get their ability to call forth nature spirits. So they get the spirit totem, and they get access to a bear spirit, a
hawk spirit,
and a unicorn spirit. And they each have their own separate powers, but the nice thing is that once you summon it, you can actually move it.
Yeah, before it was stationary.
Yes.
So we didn't really get that before, but I think the unicorn, like its primary ability of we have the advantage on checks to detect things is not going to become as useful as the extra healing that's going to wind up happening when you have that totem going. I think that's going to go more for the more healer druid than...
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just in general, you figure you're slogging it out with monsters, your whole group is, and you've got your unicorn spirit with you, and you can be, on the front lines just healing, and you're getting extra healing on top of that, and everybody else, when you cast in that, it's gonna help as well. So overall, I think it's nice. It gives me that kind of like... makes me think of like multiplayer games online where you have like somebody has the auras that they're walking around with doing the different special powers. So, and I really like it in general, and the fact that you can move it fixes the problem that I had with it previously.
Now they removed the wolf spirit entirely from the options, so that we're already seeing some trimming there. The hawk spirit, this is no action before, so like there was some change with that one. Mighty Summoner, you still get, all the same properties. Guardian Spirit, that hasn't changed. Faithful Summons, here's where I think that
nothing's changed, but he still has a gripe about it.
I still have a gripe about it. You're 14th level, you kick the bucket, and you're expecting, 4 challenge rating 2 monsters to come to your aid. Yeah, they get the 2 extra hit points per hit die
and count as magical weapons
so that
from the mighty summons.
They still can do it. The 2 extra hit points are the only thing that's gonna keep you up from your opponent's fireball. I just think that if somebody rolls well, you use a 9th level spell slot. I mean, not that it costs you 1, but you're using a 9th level spell slot to do this, or power level of, and you're getting 4 challenge rating 2 monsters. Like, sorry, it's not good enough.
Well, I think that the save for it is that when you are reduced to 0 hit points is one of the triggers for the power being activated. And as a druid, we know that when you're wild shaped and you get reduced to 0 hit points, it counts as being reduced to 0 hit points. So, bam, it triggers, and you're back in your human form or whatever form that you had previously.
Your normal form.
Yeah, your normal form before you wild shape, and you have all these monsters. So something beat you up enough, or you were kind of like, you decided to be a scouty squirrel and got smacked, and you're back in your regular form in a tree, and there's a whole bunch of orcs around. It's nice to be able to drop some bears on those orcs.
Well, in those situations, yeah, I think that could be incredibly useful. But if you're saying, well, I'm going to be a bird, or I'm going to be, a squirrel to observe the enemy, and my party's way back there, all right, that's going to be a little bit of a meat wall while you run back to signal your party to move forward. I think that's your kind of saving grace. But I still think that, like, if
You're saying you're doing the math of it and you're finding it wanting.
I'm still finding it one thing. I think if you're not using that at a wild shape point, it's not going to be helpful at all.
I say if it was an activatable ability, like ability you had to consciously go, yeah, they're there, bam, it would be crummy. But because it is a contingency plan, basically, and they last an hour, and you don't have to concentrate on them. So
that is the awesomest part of it all. They last for an hour. There's no concentration check, which means no matter how much damage you take, those things stay up. If you join that with your spirit, and the things are healing along with you, that could be an awesome fighting force. But yeah, I'd have to see it in action. I just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much. Let's face it. You're probably getting grizzly bears or polar bears at this point in time, because they're going to be the most meat shieldy and damage dealing things that you can get. I don't know how they're going to stand up to the things that you're fighting at 14th level. I mean, you're going to be hitting things that are challenge, 15, 16, 18, maybe even 20, depending upon how.
Well, yeah, you can get a bear as a challenge rating too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the Cavalier. Now, I have to admit, I totally thought this was a whole new thing. The thing's called revised subclasses, and yet I'm like, I don't remember this in the slightest. And as I'm reading it, it's like, wow, this just seems like a big parrot of the Battlemaster with just some tweaks. I don't know how you felt about it.
I thought thematically it went far enough away from that. They kind of link you to not link you like magically, but the mechanics of this subclass definitely it says you should probably have a mount.
Yes.
Most of the time, but you don't need it all the time, which is, I think, a really important distinguishment.
Well, overall, they did make some changes to this particular group so that it's not requiring you to have a mount anymore. It's tweaked enough that it's like, all right, you can do a lot of stuff and not be, well, I'm useless without this mount.
Yeah, so you get bonus proficiencies. You get one of your choice out of animal handling, history, insight, or performance, or persuasion. And you could learn one language, and it's kind of to say if you decide to choose this and you didn't pick animal handling before, you can do it now,
right?
Because you're going to want it.
Because you're gonna need it absolutely. Now, sad thing is, in the previous iteration, they were actually giving you 2 skills, so you're actually losing one with this revision. So hopefully, with some of the changes that they make, it kind of meshes up a little bit better.
And you're just better at being able to go on a mount, get off a mount, all those kind of things. They take up less movement to get on and off, and
that is fantastic. I mean, if you're gonna ride to combat, dismount, and go in so that they don't kill your horse, well, I can only get 15 feet to the enemy. Now you get 25. Now, once we get into the maneuvers, previously they were just like, you could do these things. Now they actually have names. And
you get them all,
which
is nice. You don't have to choose like the Battlemaster would have to choose.
Right, but your selection is much smaller than what the Battlemaster gets. Now, because they're called maneuvers, because you get superiority dice, part of me was like, all right, I want a line in here that clarifies the term maneuver.
Yes.
Because we do have the feat that you can take that allow you to choose maneuvers. Now, when you go to that feat, it says you can choose maneuvers that are listed under the Fighter Battlemaster archetype. Well, are these 4? I mean, technically, 2 of them are already there. So it's like, well, can I get control mount or warding maneuver as options if I take this feat? On the other side of that coin, can a Battlemaster select either of those? Now, I would say control mount. No, I think that should be specific to the Cavalier. But I'm thinking warding maneuver, maybe, why not? So I would like some information on that. And Dave, before he ran out of here screaming, saying, "Mwahaha!" You know, he's like, well, what would Jeremy Crawford say? Read the book. And the player's handbook specifically says you can choose them from the fighter Battlemaster archetype.
Now, Battlemaster archetype was the only one that had maneuvers, right?
Right.
So it's like a level of specificity they really didn't need to do unless they thought that they never wanted this feat to do any other maneuvers ever. So I doubt that they thought about that.
Right.
Not that they weren't going to think about it, but it wasn't like, oh, we should say Battlemaster because we want to exclude any other type of maneuvers that occur. But maybe they did. I don't know.
I don't know whether it was for ease of finding where you have to go so that they didn't have to reprint
it. Oh, by the way, it's the Battlemaster. Yeah.
You know, but I don't know. So I would like to find out. As always, it's 5th edition. You can play it at your table however you like. If you want to allow these things, go for it. If you don't, well, the rules clearly back you up.
And similar to a Battlemaster, you get improved superiority dice to use for your maneuvers later.
As you level up, I mean, it literally is, you know, your maneuvers function just like the Battlemaster. Your 10th level and 15th level ability are exactly the same right out of the player's handbook, and you don't even need the PDF to see what you would get there.
Well, and that is to rather than make something new, that is to go along with when a class has maneuvers. These are the type of things that they should get because otherwise their maneuvers don't get better.
Right.
And if that's a feature you want people to have maneuvers, but they don't want them to get it better ever, then you would change it. But
so
you pretty much have to follow that format if you want them to get better.
So if you're looking to play, I'm a fighter on a horse, this is a great idea. If you're looking to play somebody's like, yeah, I just knock people over and beat the crap out of them, this is where you want to go, because right now this is the only archetype that allows you to use 2 maneuvers on a single attack, and you can dump them both into damage. So that's pretty nice when you get the Ferocious Charger at 7th level. You can be like, all right, bam! When you get high enough, it's like, that's 2d12 added to the damage. I'm like, oh, well, you can choose to use a maneuver after the roll, so look at that, I crit. Bam, 40-12 added in damage, and they get disadvantage on their saving throw to get knocked over or knocked off the horse.
Now, for clarity, that is specifically the trip attack.
Yes.
Maneuver, and you just basically double down on the dice.
Indeed. So save those for the Christmas.
And it also gives them a disadvantage on their strength check for it. So
yep.
You're most likely really hurting them, and you're tripping them.
But good stuff. So Paladin, Oath of Conquest. I actually received a Facebook comment from one of you awesome fans out there recently saying, like, how can I play this as a good guy? And it's like, well, that's kind of tough, man. This is your, suffer no, none to live kind of paladin. That's not really your hero type, but there's ways to do it.
Well, I think he's more about being the strongest and crushing everyone else under him rather than just not letting anybody live.
Well, yeah, he's not. It's not.
But this is not a plays well with other team unless all those people he plays well with are all subservient and obedient to him and don't question him.
It's not the Paladin of Slaughter. It's the Paladin of Conquest.
Yeah, I think one of the demons has a bunch of these, and she calls them or he calls them Hell Knights. So that's kind of like where we're going on that.
So honestly, like if you honestly looking to play this as a player character, you kind of need a war-torn world, or at least the things that are currently going on. You need to be, hail whoever, I'm fighting in the name of, and you got to go crush your enemies. And if you're not willing and prepared to do it, like that's just not the kind of thing that you should be stepping on, because that's what this character is. There is no offering for surrender. There is no let me kidnap and answer questions. No, you are my enemy. I will cut you down, and I will do so mercilessly.
And he gets some nice oath spells to go along with that. He's got the Armor of Athgar.
Armor of Agathes.
Agathes, sorry. Command, hold person, spiritual weapon, bestow curse, fear, dominate beast, stone skin, cloud kill, and dominate person.
So dominate person, pretty nice, but do you really want to sacrifice those 6d8 damage? Or 12 if it's a crit?
Well, dominating person is very convenient for certain things.
Oh, absolutely, but
So to go along with that, you've got your channel divinities, you've got your conquering presence and guided strike, and I think those really haven't changed, have they?
So your conquering presence actually used to affect multiple targets. Now it's just the one. sorry, reverse that. Used to be one target. Now it's multiple. So definitely kind of cool. So Art of Conquest, you get at seventh level. You can make people really afraid of you, and if successful, they used to get disadvantage on attacking you. Now they're taking psychic damage, and they can't move, which is really good for mowing people down because you don't want enemies running away from you. And then as you scale in level, you get up to 18th. That aura goes out to 30 feet, which means people are paralyzed with fear within your movement radius, and you're just going to cut them down because they can't run away from you.
It's like the opening bad guy scene in every sword movie. Murderlessly slaughtering people and taking them out. Now, one of my favorite things, actually, I think the most well-written section of this entire thing is Scornful Rebuke. So, those who dare to strike you are psychically punished for their audacity. I just love that statement. So, you take, basically, whenever you take a hit, not take damage, whenever you take a hit from somebody, they're going to take psychic damage equal to your charisma modifier. If you're not incapacitated. So, as long as they're not kicking you while you're down.
So whoever wrote that snippet, Nate says
5 stars.
A big thank you, 5 stars. It is pretty awesome. They get the Invincible Conqueror, which gives you yet more advantages to being able to fight in melee. You get the improved crit range. You get resistance to all damage. It's just utterly incredible. Yeah, I can see why the dudes wanna play this type of character. But if you're role playing it right, you're not making friends easily. I tell you that much.
Yeah, you're not a team player. You're more like you're the emperor.
I think he failed to read the book of how to win friends and influence people. I will do it through subjugation of your will.
Oath of Conquest is not the way to do it.
So we move on to the Celestial Warlock, which used to be called the Undying Light, and we don't have that anymore. It's just a celestial, so you can worship or have a patron of anything. It could even be just a powerful unicorn.
I like the Undying Light, the name of it, but I understand why they want to broaden it. So you could still be this and be the Undying Light.
Absolutely, there's no limitations there.
So they expanded with this one. They expanded the spell list.
Wait! They expanded the expanded spell list.
Yeah, they expanded the expanded spell list.
So you used to have one spell on your list. Now it's 2. So you get more options to choose from, which warlocks need all the help they can get in those regards. If you ask me.
Yes, extra spells, the better.
And once you actually get into the whole power structure here, there's been a lot of moving around. The Healing Light, which is now 1st level, you used to get that at 14th, which is totally crazy. And then the Radiant Soul.
I think it's better placed here because it's not that powerful. It's just extra dice of healing damage.
And then the Radiant Soul, which you used to get at 6th, or you get at 6th now, you used to get at 1st. So, things are just getting jockey. The 14th level power, you used to get at 6th. So it's kind of we're just going to pull this here, slide this down, shove it in.
At 10th level, they got Celestial Resilience, and that basically stacks temporary hit points on you and 5 of your close friends.
Always nice. Can't go wrong with, temporary hit points. So we're going to move into our lovely Eldritch Invocations, and most of what's written here has just been some name changes, as well as they've stripped out a lot of the requirements for what you need to do to be able to get it. But more importantly, they've added some level requirements where they didn't have before.
And for some of these powers, I don't think I was in on this last one. For some of these powers, it was important to put level restrictions on them.
Aspect of the Moon, you used to have to be the Archfey. Now you just have to be a Pact of the Tome. Totally cool with that. You can have any patron as long as you have the Tome Pact. I'm good with that.
And I think that's a good move to attach them to the different pacts rather than specific patrons.
Yeah. So Cloak of Flies used to be called Cloak of Beelzebub, and you needed to have the Fiend patron. Again, they've removed that restriction from you. Eldritch Smite is the one that's really went through the biggest change in my opinion. Now, I'm only guessing this because Mace of Despater is gone. and we have Eldritch Smite. And they kind of do the same thing, except Eldritch Smite has some drastic changes, because Mace of Despater, when you had to use a mace, you had to use the fiend. You had to have the fiend patron. Well, now Eldritch Smite is 5th level, Pact of the Blade. So you've got to be using, the weapon, but you don't need the fiend. But as opposed to 2d8 per level of, of the spell slot that you use, it's 1d8 plus an additional die 8 per level that you're sacking, similar to the way a Paladin smites. So it's more akin to that power level. It hurts for the Warlock to be taking this kind of an effect because they have so limited number of spell slots, but it stops the Warlock from, outshining the Paladin.
Yeah, when you're smiting better than the Paladin, it's a little
You're not going to be able to do as many, but you're hitting harder.
But the nice thing about this is you can choose to knock down a huge or smaller opponent.
And above and beyond that, it's no longer weapon specific, which I threw that out anyway. I'm like, no, you want to do it with a sword.
What are we, first edition clerics or something?
So I'm like, well, you can use whatever you want. I got no qualms about that. So you want to do it with a spear, a freaking dagger, I don't care.
Well, specifically, it's the pact weapon, right?
Yes. So
either the item that you've decided to make the pact with, or the pact weapon itself.
Correct. So Frost Lance, no change. Ghostly Gaze, it had a different name, and you had to follow the Great Old One. Again, stripped out for ease, and they added the 7th level. Totally works for me. Gift of the Depths. There was something of the sea that was in there before. Quick change, not a whole lot of issue there. Gift of the Ever Loving Ones. This is one that I think is brand new that they added. I couldn't find anything that made the corollary in power bases, so we'll kind of see whether you guys out there can correct me on that one. Grasp of Hadar. For those of you out there who are tired of just pushing people around with your cantrip, how about pulling them in with your Eldritch Blast? You needed to have the Great Old One for this one, but again, snip, chuck that requirement out.
They also have improved pact weapon, which makes your weapon, if it wasn't magical already, it is a magical +1 weapon, which is pretty cool because that just requires that you have the Pact of the Blade,
right,
and the pact weapon. That's it.
So now, previously, this one required you to be 5th level, and here they've actually removed a level requirement. So it's like okay, you might be able to get access to a +1 weapon sooner than other people. So I kind of dig this one. Again, it's only a +1 difference. So it's not, in my opinion, really breaking any kind of bounded accuracy. And, they get so little invocations anyway. If you want to focus on your weapon combat, then I'm totally all for let's give the Pact of the Blade some love.
And then they have a few hexes here, Maddening Hex and Relentless Hex. Maddening Hex is a 5th level requirement, and the Relentless Hex is a 7th level requirement.
Now, with the Maddening Hex, I couldn't find anything that kind of fit that theme either, so I think that one is another new add to this one. Whereas the Relentless Hex, it used to be 5th level, and you had to have the Hexblade patron, which was one of the patrons that was in that specific Unearthed Arcana. So it's like, well, we're going to really limit you to, if you're not taking this one specific thing, you can't have that. Shroud of Shadow required 18th level and the Great Old One. And, they must have said, well, you know what? Casting invisibility at will isn't all that powerful because, the second that you do something offensive, you appear. It's not greater invisibility. It's just regular invisibility.
And it is 15th level. So, I mean, even still, they still have the requirement of it. I mean, if you were 5th level and you could get it, that would be really ridiculous. But, you know, setting it at 15th, I think, puts it out of the reach of people who are going to abuse it.
Right. So, no more Great Old One. They dropped it from 18th down to 15th. That slight adjustment, I think, makes it a little bit easier now. You know, you're running around invisible a lot of the time as a 15th level character. You can do a lot of impressive things, don't get me wrong. But I think making it, you know, trimmed is easier. Tome of Levestus, they just removed the Fiend patron part of it. Again, simple removal for ease of use for, you know, you want to worship somebody else or follow somebody else, go for it. And last but not least, we move on to the Tricksters Escape. And this is, you know, you can cast Freedom of Movement once on yourself without expending a spell slot. You regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest, which, you know, is another new one, and is one of those things that, in my opinion, is pretty cool, but it breaks away from the standard mechanics of a Warlock, where I think most of their stuff, if not all of their stuff, resets on a short rest. So for the new player that falls in love with a Warlock, I'd avoid this one.
Oh, okay. Well, I just really like it because Freedom of Movement is awesome. And when you get stuck and you say, I wish I had Freedom of Movement cast on me, being able to activate it as a power is pretty sweet. And it's 7th level requirement, so it's not too far out of reach.
True. And you know, I just was saying for the mechanical
Oh, yeah, there's
standpoint,
a lot of short rest stuff with the Warlock, so...
So, like, I've known Warlocks who just like, okay, well, I've used this thing, I tap it, and when, you know, short rest is over, no, I'm back to go. But this doesn't work that way. You gotta wait till tomorrow. It's like, so...
Sleep for a long time, you'll be ready. You'll be ready to go.
So, I don't know what you felt about the revised subclasses. You know, I'm wondering how much of this we're going to see in the Guide to Everything that's going to be coming out, you know, in a handful of months.
Or sometime later in another adventure or supplement.
I'm guessing that they keep pushing these revised things out. I think they're
finalizing.
They're finalizing
Maybe.
So that we get to see it as official WotC material.
That would be cool.
So, what do you guys think? Do you think this is going to show up in the Guide to Everything? You know, what do you feel about these changes? Let us know in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Go check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.